Hello, hello, everyone. Anderson, Cacina, Mira, it's such an honor and a pleasure. I'm so excited to have you. I can't, it's an understatement. I've been waiting to hear you.
Thank you
Oh,
so much. Thank you for having us.
thank you so much for having us. Pleasure to be here with you, Wes.
Thank you. And so, uh, I have a lot to say about how I feel about your music, but I would like you to introduce yourselves and maybe say a little bit about yourselves to our audience.
Hmm. Why don't you
You
go
want to
ahead?
start?
Oh, well, you are the classical singer.
Well, well, my background is a classical musician actually and a singer. I had
Mm.
a long education, where I learned a lot of stuff that, well, I wouldn't say I use everything that I've learned to some degree or other today. So, but
Mm.
I had a really traditional background, and at some point, um, about 10, 15 years ago, I took a new direction because I tried something new, something I had actually, it turned out, been longing for my whole adult life, or maybe my whole life.
Mm.
So after that, I started creating my own music, and soon I started creating with Cacina, my partner, and so that changed a lot of things. So a lot of the things that I do today is a mixture of rooted in classical tradition, musically speaking, and something that is entirely of a different nature. So, yeah.
When you answered that call for you to create music, I know I interrupted, I apologize, to create
No
music
problem.
in a new way, do you feel that that expanded your creativity, that it created healing for you, and then that led you to being with Katina? I just wonder for that moment when you heard the call and you answered it.
Well,
No.
Kachina is partly to blame, absolutely, for sure. Because I came when we met quite some time before that shift happened.
Mm.
But ever since we came together and we met, something started absolutely to change with it. It had been on the way already.
Mm.
I already knew by the end of a short career I had in classical music that I was not going to do that. I just didn't know what to do. And for sure, it led to an expansion that is, I,
Mm.
I, I simply, what happened was that I found my sound again. And it
Mm.
sounds maybe weird being a classical singer, but when you're a professional singer, you could do a lot of stuff all day long, and never really feel that your
Feeling it.
sound is coming across, and that you can't sometimes even recognize yourself. And that was at least the situation that I was in. And at some point, there was just something clearly from within, something calling, and it had a lot to do with this beautiful lady here, that her influence on me. That so at some point, I had an experience where we had a home studio at home. I went down there and didn't really, it wasn't clear what was going on. I just had a very, very strong urge. So I went down there for a couple of hours, and after that, I came up to Cacina and said, I think there's something I want to play for you. And that was the beginning of something entirely new. And
Mm.
me being, I'm actually an educated, as my background is as a singer and conductor, and I'm used to very complex classical music and these things. And what I ended up doing in my studio, I went down and found myself just doing sound, tones, one tone at a time. I sang
Mm.
one note for the longest time, and I could create,
Mm.
in my studio a certain ambience, and
Mm.
I was just happy like
Mhm.
a kid. So it's that's my background. That was what happened right there, and something started in a process. So I recorded that tone, and I did other tones and very quickly it was clear that something new was on the way there, which of course was not planned and
Mm.
was wonderful, and it started a whole new direction for me. And yeah,
And for me.
and for you, yeah. I mean, but Katina
Mm.
and I, we started
Mm.
also not long after that to create our music together. The first, what became our first album, The Lemurian Homecoming, was actually only my voices. But Katina was absolutely, she was part of producing it and the whole album from the beginning. But after a while, I think Katina also began to play and we began to create music together.
Mm.
And I mean, you were actually a a pianist and
Yeah.
coming out of music yourself.
Yeah, tell us about you, Cacina.
I started playing the piano when I was just a little girl. I started playing on my own, you know. And then I had quite some years classical piano lessons, and it was just not my thing. I was pretty good at it. I could play many interesting and good and well-received composers, but it just was not for me. Even though I had the acrobatics down, if you want to call it that. But I kept hearing a certain music from within that I just on the piano had no way of creating there in terms of sound. So it has only been, I don't know, like 10, 15 years ago when I was introduced through computer to have a sound library that allows me to have like an orchestra or a choir or there all of a sudden I felt, woo, there are these sounds that I already tried to mimic as a kid, as a young person that I heard already inside there. I love all kind of other music, you know, I'm dancey and I love rhythm and everything. But when it comes to my own feeling of where I go into in that kind of space, that is really more creating a space of consciousness where your soul, your consciousness can enter. And I just provide that space. And it turned out that I'm providing a space that Anna's loves to sing in. So that we just found out a little later.
That's why it was partly her fault.
Oh, of course.
You probably heard this before, but I have to tell you that when the two of you got together, I see the angels like a cherubim, millions of them being so happy and singing because they won. They got you two together. So that is wonderful.
It's very nice to hear. We were told by Chandler at some point it was a slam dunk.
Yeah, exactly.
And the wonderful thing about this is not very often as a singer and performer you come together with someone where it's so fitting what we're doing, because Cacina loved this embrace. The first time I began to realize what she was doing with her sounds and computers and basically a synthesizer in a computer, if you will, you can make a whole orchestra and you can make a space. And this was new to me, and I loved it. And actually, the first time we came together was a couple of years after
musically, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. We came together long before, but musically speaking, was a couple of years after the first couple of albums that I did only with my voice and that we produced together. This was actually right before we were going to Hawaii, Maui, to a big conference, and we had wanted to make an album, and we've been very busy up to that, and it was in December. So 2012, 2012, this big turn that we all talked about, and we wanted to do an album, and we said, all right, all we have is an intention. I had this sentence I had loved since I was a kid. Dream of the blue whale, and that was all I had. And we just went down in the studio, and Cacina said, what am I supposed to play? I don't know, whatever you do, I'm good with that, I don't want to know. So I went over in my music box or my microphone, and she was with her keyboards, and Cacina just started, and I started writing, and there was nothing agreed.
Nothing
and
planned.
A few hours later, I would say we basically had a full album. And this is something, I don't know if you know about music production, but this is hardly ever the case. You make many, normally you make many recordings.
And you know what you want to do and all that.
Yeah,
and
you mix it and you overdub it and you do all kind of things. But this was basically one take of two
pieces.
Bigger that became pieces. And we hardly did anything to them. It just came like a download.
Just one download, yeah.
And that was just it was wonderful. And there was the album that became, we called it The Dream of the Blue Whale.
Yeah.
So.
And it was literally the moment I put my fingers on the keyboard, I did not know what I was going to play in the next moment. So it was really just stepping out there and see what wants to come through. Yeah. So we had no idea. And that was the first time when the whale showed up, where I started making sounds where I also thought, whatever's happening over there, but just keep playing, girl, because this guy is really in a space now, you know.
If you like,
Yeah.
we'll play a short version of it later before we say goodbye today.
Yeah.
We
We would
would love
love
to
it,
share
love
that
it,
with
love
them.
Because
it.
the original is 40 minutes, so we're not going to do that.
We're gonna make a very short version.
That would be wonderful.
Mhm.
I want to ask you how, I mean, to me, your music is more than healing. It just moves me to a place that's a no place, you know? Um, and I could see that everything is channeled through this music is I could see where it's coming from many universes. I don't know if you know that, but I could see that. But I want to
Phenomenal.
ask you how you feel. Yeah, I know you do. I mean, how fortunate you are that you are doing something that your soul loves to do. How many people can say that that's what that their work is actually what their soul calling is? You know, not too many, even though everybody tries. We all try to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
when you do that, you're just in the moment, and I'm sure you're very expanded. But where I want to get to is how do you feel in terms of do you put any intentions of healing or specifically on for some things I'm sure you put some intentions, do you?
Um,
No, it's
Not
just
really. Well,
Mm-mm.
the intention is clear because intention is not. We don't put an intention intellectually and think now I'm gonna think of such and such and such.
right.
But energetically or emotionally, of course, there's an intention. And like as an example of when I went in the studio for the first time, I had a clear intention. I I wouldn't have formulated it if you had asked me, but in retrospect, I it's clear that my intention was expansion. I want out. As a professional musician and singer, I had come to a point where everything felt like templates. I couldn't get a new feeling. I had been everywhere. I felt musically speaking, so
Yeah,
I couldn't get anywhere, and I was every time, and I was slightly bored with the things that I was doing. But
yeah,
this what that had been up until that point very strongly when that day when I went in my studio had come up to a climax, and all of a sudden out came these very simple tones and sounds, and the music was building up from a completely different place in me, and it had to, it seemed, go come that way around, and all of a sudden there was the freedom and then the joy and like feeling like singing again for the first time in many years. And
wow.
Cacina was, it was absolutely, you came in a perfect time for that, because everything you do was just a big yes inside me.
But since you ask about the healing effect of the music, we really never ever intended to create music for healing. What is really exciting for us, and maybe also good to share, is that when what you described so beautifully before, excuse me, is when we're really going into that space of the music, you can call it simply connection. Anders goes in his space of connection, and so do I. And when we are really coming into that space, we are connected with where there are no problems, there is no healing necessary. We are in that space.
It's a well-being.
It is a well being, it's an eternal well being.
That's true.
And when we are creating music from that, it can only contain well being in its very frequency, in its very vibration. And it was after creating music that through people like John Stewart Reed that we found out that the music actually tends to help people heal all kind of things, emotional things, partly physical things. But I think it is so precious to know that when you come from the place of connection, whatever needs with healing within you, whether physically or whatever, can be done vibrationally because it comes from that place. You know, instead of working from here our way up into healing, you go from connection and it trickles down.
Because I mean, healing is the absence of friction and struggle,
And of separation.
of separation. And
Yes.
that is actually, and I think that was what we went into every time we made music, and also for me from the very beginning, because you're longing, there's such a longing inside to go to that place. But as you said earlier, how do we get there? We all have this longing. So, and I had that when I began, and we certainly had this when we began to make music together. We are like, you know, like twin flames when it comes to that. There's such a pull, and therefore we find that place, I think, very quickly. I think also because we both know this place so very well within us, who we really are, actually, besides these, people we are here. So we know it very well, and therefore it's not a long journey to get there. And this is and when you are a musician, of course, you need to be a musician if you want to make music in that sense. There's a lot of craft involved, and that allows both of us to relax and not have to, focus too much on it, because it's working. We know what to do as musicians, and me as a singer, and therefore we can go right into that space. And I think that also plays an important role there.
Yeah.
Not going mental about it,
Yeah.
not wanting to know too much or make sure it has a certain outcome. We really leave this aside. We really do.
Wonderful, wonderful. You've summed it up so well, Cacina. Connection is what allows people that hear your music to step into this place of wholeness that we are already. But so that is so wonderful, the vibration that you offer. And when we hear the music, we step into that. I love it. That's really
Thank
awesome.
you.
I know Mira is much more eloquent than I am, but I tend to simplify things.
So beautifully said. I was so taken by it. And that made me think of wanting to ask you two things. How do you support that sense of connection with your soul on a day-to-day basis outside of the studio? Do you have a process, a ritual, or do you just live life?
Oh,
That's a different thing.
if it would be always that easy, you know what? I would like that recipe too.
Yeah, that's true.
Particularly in these times, where the world is really going through a challenging process and everything. It's also for us not just, everyone is playing harps and sings hallelujah. It really isn't that case. But
Yesterday we had we're doing some online classes at the moment, and I had a lot of things technically to check out with the studio, and I'm not a technician. I'm just just a musician, and I was going crazy completely
with
because there were so many
stuff,
things, and especially when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So there's lots and lots of situations in daily life where I feel very challenged and where I have to focus a lot to get to that place that comes like that when we make music. So yes, it's not always the same.
Oh, I have to tell you, my salvation is teaching and coaching clients, because that's when I feel most in wholeness. That's when I reach for the high. So I imagine your sanctuary is the studio. Your sanctuary is the music you create together, the space you create for one another and then for others.
Or being out with people. I mean,
Oh,
we're slowly beginning now coming physically events again after the COVID time, but this is maybe really the best.
But for me, it's also in the daily life, just also normal music, not maybe the typical radio music or whatever, but when I hear music that really speaks to me, normal music, if it's soul or whatever, it just brings me to the place where I'm well. I need music in my life, and not just quiet music, rhythmic music, fun music, music that really speaks to me. So, that is my thing. I don't need to meditate for that. That's it. That takes me right there.
Wonderful. Me too. Music takes me. I have it's my go-to every day. It's my go-to. Yeah.
And I think you it's very poignant. It's a good point, because it actually, the purposes with music, we say music, but music is like so many things. Like can be like night and day. And so the purpose of the music, I think, will drive that often and be deciding for. And when we need during the day, we need something that is uplifting and rhythmic, and we both love that. I mean, we're suckers for Stevie Wonder and Earth, Wind and Fire, and we grew up with that stuff, and we love it. But I think the kind of music we create together has a different purpose. There's not much of that around. Not that kind of, I guess, also part of the reason it came to us and we started doing this kind of music, because sometimes we just need a space where you can have your sort of a calm and a centered focus, where you're just in your heart and you don't do anything really. You're just being a lot in the world. and that's not always so easy.
No,
So,
this is a doing world, right? It's so hard for us to be,
and
but
actually, we are human beings, not
yeah,
human doings. You know,
right.
it's like
About being and doing. And also, we spoke about dreaming earlier. We just mentioned the word. But honestly, I thought for a second of asking you, are you dreamers? In other words, do you get music in your dreams? Do you create music in your dreams? Do you feel that a lot of your inspiration is dreaming with your eyes open or your eyes closed?
I don't so much, but I remember you had also a few songs come
yeah.
that way, lyrics coming that way. I remember.
I don't sleep. I don't dream the music. What happens is very often that something has been going on, and then I wake up, and Cacina finds me some little later out of the bed and down and somewhere in the studio, or sitting with the, and say, you know, it
Notes
often
there
came in the morning. Yeah, and this is often, I think, in this subliminal place you are when you just
in
woke up.
between.
You know this place where you
Yeah.
just you simply just, and there's something about that space that is very very inspiring. A lot of the stuff that I came up with over the years happened just in that
Just
time.
right there.
Yeah,
I love it. I knew that. That's why I asked the question.
Oh,
yeah,
very
So
cool.
that, thank you for encouraging us, all of us, to open even more to that dream space, in between space.
yeah.
Yeah,
In between space is the best. Sometimes the best space. It really is.
Getting out of the mind.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's incredible how
wonderful.
wonderful it is sometimes to get out of the mind. I mean, we're much more wired for the other things, I believe. We have learned to speak, and it seems normal, more normal than singing for many people, but actually we're wired the other way around. We really are, as beings.
Yeah,
That was
it's
part of
much.
the research also. I don't know, I'm sorry, but when some years ago when I started actually doing research about the music also and the effect it has, when I found out that the human brain is actually wired for music first and second for language. This is so amazing to know, you know, where does this come from in terms of human evolution, that music overrides language. When you have people choose, they listen to the music and not to the
Yeah, they can
language.
see it in the brain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can see
how
that.
it's wired. Yeah,
So music altogether comes already from a place that is pre-language. So we come from music.
yeah,
That's another talk for another time, a
yeah.
longer one.
Very fascinating. Fascinating. Well, I think that the most we could do, the best thing we could do at this point is really listen to you. If you'll be willing to.
Gladly,
We would
Yeah,
love to actually. We would.
gladly.
wonderful.
So,
Thank you.
We could make you two shorter pieces. Well, two things that are a little bit representing two different sides of what we're doing.
one with lyrics and the
Yeah.
other one with just sound lyrics.
The other one is just a journey. The other one is, yeah, we'll do a little. The last one is a short version of the Dream of the Blue Whale. That would be good, I think.
So let me go to the keyboard.
So you are gonna, yeah,
Yes.
you're gonna go over.
And we'll mute ourselves then.
Right. Okay.
Turn my mic off, please.
Yes. So walking first, yeah? All right. Okay.
Just a second. I need to
All right.
do something.
Okay. We're just doing the technical stuff now. And there's a lot of it, isn't there? Okay.
Sorry, I have to change something here.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Changing sounds. We do walking through lifetimes first, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do that.
Oops. Okay.
All right.
Just see. I'm there. Okay.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right. 2, 3, 4. I ask you now, please tell me how this all works out. Questions on my mind, answers I can't find, leaves my heart in doubt. Am I merely human, walking this earth of dirt and mud? Is my whole existence and all that is me, is that only in my flesh and blood? Or am I more? Am I more? They say it's not my first life, and that it won't be the last, and that I have futures beyond this life, and much more than one past. Am I ask you, am I more? Am I more? This is not the first time, 'cause I have futures beyond this life, and much, much more than one past. You say the secrets of eternity is not how many mountains I climb, and that we are all friends for eons of time. Love is the new paradigm. Love is the new paradigm. Love is the new paradigm. 'Cause we are very old friends. Yes, we are very old friends. We are very old friends. are very old friends. Old friends. We are very old friends. All right. All right. And so we would like to end this delightful meeting with you all, doing as promised a little piece of journeys, which it actually is, and it's a little piece from the piece that's called "Dream of the Blue Whale." So enjoy the ride.
That was just magnificent. In the first piece, my cells just open up as if they're the sun is warming them up. They're just so happy. And in the second piece, I was the blue whale swimming in the ocean. It was like there are no words to describe the feeling. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's really a joy to be with you,
Mm.
and it's wonderful. And we really thank you for what you're doing. It's beautiful. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, thank you. I would love for people to dive into your work and into your music, into your classes, and work with you and experience this. And I'm excited for us to share. How does it feel for you to create this legacy? How do you think of the work that you are doing? What do you want us to leave us with in this conversation, but also people in general?
Oh my.
I think there's.
Question I asked,
I
right?
think it's. I think it's fair to say my experience myself is we also talked about this, that it's definitely something. What I feel a lot is going on in the world right now is that there's a new consciousness. There's a shift of consciousness, and I do feel that this is also what comes through in our music, and because the way what draws us, what the longing is underneath and through all this is the longing for, well, a new consciousness, or an expansion of where we have been for what seems so long, and the joy and the freedom and the love that is there is, I think, what we simply sense so strongly when we tune into this place. And I guess this is also what comes out. I don't know what you feel.
I think what we have learned through the music and what is really precious to me is that the kind of music we're making really seems to speak to people. It doesn't matter of any age or culture or musical taste. And that, to me, it's not about a fan club here of our music or not, but what it means to me is that when you come from a place of connection, it is simply a vibration that is transmitted in the music, and we don't have to figure out things then, because it simply speaks to us from where we are coming from, no matter what culture. Because there is so much going on in the world about you are right, you are wrong, and I'm better here, and all these separation discussions. But when you find out that there are not only just common denominators, but we have one origin.
Yeah.
This is where we come from. And I'm so grateful that it seems that we are speaking to that origin. So if I want to contribute anything to this world, it's to say, we are all the same. We are one family. And this is not something I want to preach, but I'm going to live by that until my last breath with the music and with the joy that we have. Hopefully also when we are able to get out and meet you in person all again. That is partly my dream at the moment, because I'm a highly social being.
Yeah.
I only do this in the meantime until I can go out again.
Well, we're gonna do both. That's the
Yes.
beauty of it. So, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I would like to have a get together and have you there. I would love
Yeah.
that.
A real hug works much better in real life, in real time, than it does online, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for being with us. This was truly a privilege to witness your connection and your wholeness, and for you to share that space and connect us to our wholeness. So
Thank you so
thank
much.
you for bringing us into oneness. I'm beyond grateful for your work and what you do.
Oh, my pleasure. Truly.
It's a joy.
Yes.
Thank you
And a
for
joy to
having
be
us.
with you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. We shall meet again and talk again.
Yes, we shall.
Yes.
We'll definitely keep in touch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yes.
for listening, and thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Till another time.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.